Hey guys, so today I will be talking to you about something that shocked me very much years later after I realized what had happened. So I'm talking about whenever we see a person, when we see a situation where a person is in trouble, normally, for the most part, most of us will want to get involved to help them, or we will call the police. So but one time, I'm talking about an incident where a friend and I witnessed something that we could have stopped, but we did nothing about it. And years later, when I thought about it, I was very shocked at myself because, I was always the type, and I still am, even like back then, I was always the type to get involved. I was always, I would call for help whenever I would see somebody in trouble. But this time, it didn't happen, and I'll tell you why. So I will tell you, what led up to that series of events where we didn't call anybody to help that person. So this was back in 1990, excuse me, 1992. And around, I think in spring. So my friend and I, we were walking downtown in Toronto, and this was nighttime. And I don't remember what we were doing. We were shopping. Okay, so we had just finished shopping, and it was already nighttime. It was maybe around 9 o'clock. I think it was around 9 o'clock. Anyway, it was really dark. So we were walking north on Yonge, and shortly before we got to Wellesley Street, for you guys who know about Toronto, shortly before we got to Wellesley Street, right at the corner, we saw, for you guys who know, there's this store there that has like a downstairs, right from the street level, there are some stairs that lead down to the basement. You know those kinds of stores, right? And then you just go into the store. And they also have like a top level, but you can enter their basement through the street level, go down the stairs. So anyway, my friend and I, we had just reached past that point of that store, and we were just hanging out. I don't remember what we were doing, but we were going home. But we were just standing there. We were waiting for something, or I don't know, I don't remember, but we were just standing there. And then suddenly we saw something. We saw something, guys, that where we should have gotten involved, and we did not get involved. So this is what we saw. So my friend and I are standing there, and there was this lady who was sitting on the steps of this store, right? The store was already closed. She was sitting on the front steps of the store, and she was really, really, really drunk to the point where, you could tell her head was kind of bobbing, and she couldn't hold herself up. Okay, so she was sitting on the steps and kind of, I think I remember her kind of leaning against the wall that was, near, next to her, the store. And so we're just, that's something that we noticed, that she was there. And then all of a sudden, my friend and I noticed these two guys that were across the street. I had also noticed them, but we didn't think anything of it, right? At least, I don't know if my friend noticed it, but I noticed that these two guys were across the street. And of course, at that time, I didn't care. I didn't think anything of it. And so these two guys, suddenly they started walking across the street, right? So I was just observing them. So there were no reason, no particular reason. It was just, you just observe people. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're on the street, you're just observing people. And I noticed that they started crossing the street. So they started crossing the street, because they were on the other side, of course. They started crossing the street, and I saw them that they were approaching the lady. And so right away, they headed towards her, and I saw everything. They continued to walk towards her, and they came to where she was, and they stopped right in front of her. Right away, I knew what was up. Okay, I knew what was up. But in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it's just two guys that are just picking up a lady off of the street. But right when those two guys got there, Okay, I remember, like, I know, like, I was observing them, once again, for no particular reason, but I had been observing them when they were still at the point when they were across the street. They were standing, both of them were standing up against the store, a building of a store. They were just standing there, and they were looking across the street. So I already knew that these two guys had targeted her. Okay, they had targeted her because I did notice that they were just standing there and looking across the street over to our side. But at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I was just observing people on the street. And so anyway, once they got to where the lady was, you know, they started chatting up with her, and the lady looked up at them, and she started smiling at them. Big, big smile, and she was, you know, you could tell her attitude was like, hey, how are you doing? You know, she's just saying hello. And the two guys were chatting with her. And my friend and I were observing everything. You know, we're just watching. And then, what happened next was something that I really, really wish my friend and I had gotten involved, at least one of us. So what happened was, these two guys, you know, they were chatting up with this with this lady, and then maybe for around 10 minutes. Then they stooped down, they bent down, and one guy was on one side of the lady, and another guy was on the other side. And they grabbed her by her, like, they put their arms underneath her arms, and they hoisted her up because she was, you know, she was too intoxicated to hold herself up. So they hoisted her up on her feet. Okay, they hoisted her onto her feet, and then they led her. Oh, and the lady, you know, she didn't know what she was doing. She was just smiling. Big, big smile. And then I saw that she placed both of her arms around these two guys. And then, you know, she was just looking at them and smiling at them. And then these two guys, they led the lady. I mean, you could tell she was in no condition to walk. So these two guys, they started leading her, you know, to the downstairs. Okay, they led her to the downstairs of the store that was already closed. And they started going down the stairs. And instead of I getting involved, or at least my friend, or one of us getting involved, or both of us getting involved, my friend said, well, we know what they're going to go down, we know what they're going to go down there to do, right? And I said, yep. And then we just continued minding our own business, instead of going to the payphone that was nearby and calling the police to report a rape that was about to take place. So when that happened, like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I do remember my mindset at the time. My mindset was, you know, drunks are just unimportant people. They're just, well, I didn't think of them as unimportant, but I thought to myself, if they're drunk, then it's just, they know what they're doing, they know what they got themselves into, and, you know, if something bad happens to them, then it's their fault. That was my mindset, you know, even though at the time I was still getting involved in incidences. Whenever I used to see something bad, I would call the police or call somebody to help the person or persons that were in trouble at the time. But for some reason, see, I had that mindset from the time I was a child that a drunk, they're not included amongst the groups of people that you're supposed to help. You know, so that was my mindset. That's why I didn't get involved at that time. I don't know what my friend was thinking. Maybe she was thinking the same thing. To me, it makes sense that she might have been thinking the same thing, you know, but I don't know what she was thinking. I don't know. But I know what I was thinking at the time. And I feel bad that I did not get involved, because, you know, she got raped that night, you know. And also the thing that made it even worse was that she was a Native lady. She was a First Nations person, right? And we know the history of the First Nations persons. They have, you know, there's a really ugly history with the First Nations people in all of North America, and they're like really marginalized, and they just, nobody cares. A lot of people don't care about the First Nations people. But thank God that's changing in Canada. In Canada, that is changing now. We are making huge like steps to correct things in Canada. Hopefully it's happening in the United States. I don't know, maybe it's happening in the US too, but I know that in Canada there are major steps being taken place ever since our new Prime Minister, Mr. Young Trudeau, okay, he's only 45, young guy. So ever since young President Trudeau came into power, he has been making a lot of he's doing things like he's visiting those awful places called the reserves, okay, and he has plans to just help the residents in those areas to make changes in their lives so that they are no longer marginalized and just thought of as garbage. I mean, I of course I don't think of them as garbage. I didn't think of them as garbage back then at any time. Okay, when I was seeing her, the fact that she was Native didn't say to my mind, oh, she's a piece of garbage. No, I was thinking, well, it's just a lady. Okay, it's just a lady. That's just drunk. Okay. Oh, and she's Native, right? And we know that there's a huge alcohol problem in the Native culture. So also I was thinking, well, you know, she's a Native lady and she's just doing what she's doing. She's an alcoholic, right? That's very ignorant thinking. Even though, you know, like I just said, I was always the kind of person who liked to help people, but at the same time, the stigma that I grew up with, you know, in here in Toronto, was if it's a drunk person, okay, just leave them alone. Okay, and because they're Native, oh, well, they're used to drinking, so that's their problem. That was my thinking. And it shocks me that I was thinking like that. But thank God that with maturity I've changed. So anyway, ooh, sorry guys, I feel sweaty. Ooh, sweaty. Anyway, so the reason why I'm telling you guys this story is because, you know, I'm giving my testimony so that anybody out there who feels the same way that I felt back then about people that are drunk, and even about people that are in the Native culture, right? We can't just stand by and do nothing because, you know, they were born, right? When they were born, just picture your mind, okay, picture in mind a drunk person, whether they're Native or not. They're born, right? You can just picture in their mind. They're born and they're a cute little baby. If they were a cute little baby, right, if you were to walk down the street or wherever, down an alleyway or wherever, and you were to see that person, you know, that's drunk, like picture a drunk person, and picture them being born, and then for some reason you find them on the street. Like, are you going to leave that child there, or are you going to pick them up and rush them to the hospital? Right? Obviously you're gonna freak out and say, what's that child doing there? You're going to pick the baby up and take them to the hospital. So it's no difference. There should be no difference, you know, between that baby and a person that is an alcoholic and can't hold themselves up, and they're falling all over the place, and they're about to be abused, or they're in the process of being abused, right? There should not be a difference, because they're both human beings. When they were born, we should not care more about them at that point, you know, to when they're, you know, growing up now. We have to have the same level of care and concern. So from the time I saw that, you know, with my friend, I said, oh boy, you know, I don't know what I was thinking at that time, but like I said, it was the mindset that I grew up with. You know, this is like, thank God things are changing, but this is what the mindset of some Canadians have, okay? Some of us grew up with that, and then thank God we grow out of it. Well, we don't grow out of it, but we're taught better, you know. So, yeah, yeah, you know, I just, you know, for folks out there that are watching this and still have that mentality, please change it. It's that easy, because it's a human being, right? If we were to see a loved one get ignored like that, it would really kill us inside. We would want somebody to get involved, you know. So if you see something, you guys got to tell. You know, I learned my lesson, You know, I learned my lesson that we're not supposed to just care about a certain segment of the population and just leave the rest, you know, to the mercy of those who are abusing them. No, we have to include everybody, because God made that lady that my friend and I watched eventually get, you know, raped. We didn't see it get raped. We didn't see her get raped, but eventually she got raped down there. God made that lady in His image, right? And He made her in His image. So what those two guys did to her, if they have not already repented, He is still going to deal with them if they're still alive. Because in the Bible, the Lord does say, you know, I don't know where the verse is, but there is a verse where the Lord is very specific about people who abuse others sexually. He says He's going to deal with them. Oh yeah. There's a verse for everything. It's very serious. Very, very serious, you know, because that's a violation of the temple of the Holy Spirit. You know, and we have to take care not only of ourselves, but of other people. You know, we see things that is you know, we see something that is happening that is wrong, and we just don't do anything. We are also to blame for what happened to them, because we're supposed to talk. That's why He gave us mouths and a tongue. We're supposed to report what we see, because if it were happening to me, then I would want somebody to come and rescue me. If it were happening to you, then you would want somebody to come and rescue you. You wouldn't say, well, it's my problem. They don't have to get involved. No, you care about yourself and you love yourself, and you don't want any kind of abuse to come to your body. You would want somebody who was watching, right, who has the power to put a stop to that. You would want that person to call help, right, while you're getting abused, or while you're in the process of, you know, in an attempt of an abuse. You would want somebody to rescue you, and that's the fact. You know, so I learned my lesson, and I will never not say anything again, ever. And I mean, that was back in 1992, right? And past that point, I learned to not judge people like that very, very shortly after. I learned not to judge people in that situation shortly after. So there have been many other times when I've seen things. You know, one time I saw, like, across the street, there was an incident. I saw this guy. He slapped this girl really hard across the face, and I said, look, I screamed that I was standing on my veranda, and I said to the guy, look, I said, if you don't stop hitting her, because he slapped her, and I thought he slapped her. He slapped her one time, really hard, right? And then I said, if you don't stop hitting her, I'm going to call the cops. And then he looked at me, and he was appalled. He's like, who do you think you are? And I was just looking at him like, yeah, I'm serious. I'm going to do it. You know, he was just standing there. So then, you know, we have to get involved. We have to get involved, because the Lord would want somebody to get involved for you if somebody was hurting you. If somebody was hurting someone in your family, you would want somebody to get involved. That lady that my friend and I witnessed, you know, later on, when she would get raped, she has family. And if her family were there, they wouldn't just be standing around saying, oh, look at that, she's about to get raped. Oh, you know, who cares? No, they would intervene right away. So in the same way that her family would intervene, hopefully you guys, you know, would intervene when somebody is about to get abused, or if you're witnessing something, right? You would never let something like that happen to your family. Never. Right? Even an animal. If you guys see someone abusing an animal, you guys got to get involved. You know, I can't stand it when animals get involved, get hurt. I always get involved if I see an animal getting hurt. I always call the authorities. I do that. Because in the Bible, the Lord says you must not abuse my animals. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to make us understand that it's wrong to abuse an animal. Right? So anyway, please guys, if you see something horrible, report it. Just report it, please. Everybody walks around with cell phones now. Just report it. Okay? Yeah. Alright, so I'm done. And just in case anybody's wondering what I was holding, sorry, it's my mirror. I was just holding on to it because I was putting on lipstick earlier. So anyway, yeah. please get involved, right? Get involved. And if you've been a witness to something recently, get involved, you know, just talk. Because when we don't say anything, we allow the perpetrators to get away with what they've done. And trust that God will protect you. Ask the Lord to give you favor, to keep you safe from the person or persons who have caused harm to the victims that you've seen getting hurt. Whether they are people in your family that got hurt, or a best friend, or your spouse, or somebody that matters to you, or somebody that is, you know, is not significant to you, but you've seen an abuse unto them. Say something, because it'll make a big difference. The Lord will be able to put, you know, He causes justice, right? He is able to, I mean, He can create justice even if you don't say anything, but our responsibility is to say something, because we have the ability to do it. And He expects us to say something. He expects us to open our mouths and talk. Okay? It'll make Him upset if we see something and don't say anything. Just like it would make you upset if you knew, you know, of someone who, like, you knew for absolute certain that someone out there, people out there are a witness to somebody hurting your family member, and they refuse to talk. That's going to really hurt you. It's going to kill in the heart. You expect those people to talk, not to be, you know, just hiding. We have to talk. So I'm asking you guys, if you've seen something recently, or if you will see something after you see this video, to say something, because it's not right. We would want somebody to step in for us and our family members and our pets, so we have to talk. So you talk too. Okay, guys? So I'm done. And, yeah. And please send me your videos for you guys who have testimonies about the Lord, and not specifically, not necessarily about what I spoke about, you know, about not saying anything or about getting involved. Just any kind of testimony that you have on how the Lord has changed your life, a miracle or something like that. Okay, anything to do with the Lord and how the Lord has affected your life. So just send me your videos and I will post them to my blog. Okay? Alright, I'm just putting my shoes. Oh! I've been standing on my left leg, and I guess I kind of got used to it, and then when I stood up straight, it kind of hurt. My foot hurt. Oh, I was putting my foot back into my slipper. Alright guys, so I'm gonna go, I'm finished. I'm gonna go. Bye.